And we have breaking news tonight. Just over an hour ago, the Texas House voted to impeach Attorney General Ken Paxton. Here's that historic moment.
There have been 121 ayes and 23 nays, 2 present not voting, 3 absent. The resolution is adopted.
Let's give you some context on why Attorney General Ken Paxton was impeached. This has been in the works for a very long time. In 2020, several former Attorney General's office aides came forward saying they'd been fired after reporting Paxton for taking bribes. They said Paxton abused his power to benefit a friend and political donor named Nate Paul, who's an Austin businessman. And earlier this year in February, Paxton was ordered to pay $3.3 million to settle the lawsuit with whistleblowers. He wanted to use taxpayer money for that. In March, the House General Investigating Committee started looking into Paxton and those whistleblower firings. Then we fast forward to this week. On Tuesday, the committee announced that it would subpoena Paxton. And on Wednesday morning, the committee heard from investigators who testified that they believe Paxton misspent office funds and misused his power to benefit Nate Paul. The committee adopted articles of impeachment on Thursday, and today the House voted to impeach the Attorney General. Tony, all of this goes back to several years. Why is this happening now, and what's next?
And Darrenisha, that is one of the striking things about all of this. Keep in mind, these allegations against Ken Paxton were brought forward by those aides, as you mentioned, back in October 2020. They went to the FBI and said, we believe our boss, the Attorney General of Texas, is committing a number of crimes. That triggered what is now an ongoing investigation by the Department of Justice and by the FBI. But Darrenisha, more importantly, at least in this context, it also triggered a lawsuit by those 4 whistleblowers. Over the past couple of years, that lawsuit has been winding its way through the court, but earlier this year, they reached a tentative settlement agreement of $3.2 million. And officials have said, and lawmakers who were on that investigating committee have said, it was in fact Ken Paxton's request that taxpayer dollars be used to pay that $3 million that then led to their investigation and their bringing forward those 20 articles of impeachment earlier this week.
Okay, so now that the House has voted to move forward with this impeachment, what's next?
Well, that is a very interesting and important question. The logistics of what happens next are still being worked out at the Capitol, even as we speak. But under Texas law, Ken Paxton is now suspended from office. He is no longer able to act under the law as Texas Attorney General. We expect that the governor in coming hours, maybe in the next day or so, will name a temporary replacement. But the matter, the impeachment matter, the case itself now goes to the Senate. The Senate must take this up. They will have a trial of some duration that is unclear, and then vote whether or not Ken Paxton is convicted of these allegations. If in fact he is convicted, his removal, his suspension from office then becomes permanent. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick will preside over the proceeding in the Senate, but Darrenisha, he has said very little about the timing of that, when the Senate could take up this matter. Keep in mind the legislative session, they are in session right now, ends on Monday. So the open question as we sit here this evening is whether or not the Senate may take up this matter tomorrow or on Monday.